It just brought back everything from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was stronger because I always say, well, I'm going to find Luke, he's alive, he's somewhere, and then the year passes again and again. And that's what mostly gets to me now is where is Luke? Where is he?
Hello, listeners. We're Shedding Light, and I'm Candy.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Susie.
And we're hell-bent on shedding light on unsolved missing persons cases across Canada,
in an attempt to find the missing piece of the puzzle.
Sometimes it kind of goes away and sometimes it comes back. And then every time I go to North Bay, I always say, give me a sign, something that, I don't know, a bird would fly or something, or, to know where he is. There's all the little things like that. It's very weird that you're trying to put the puzzle back and it's very hard.
What you're about to listen to is the culmination of countless hours of research in an attempt to gather as many facts as possible about the case by reading news articles, online blogs and forums, and by interviewing friends, family, and people involved in Luke's case. We will discuss different theories and possibilities and pick them apart in order to evaluate their likelihood, or better yet, eliminate them. We weren't there. We don't claim to know what happened. We can only try to paint a picture using the resources that we do have. We don't claim anything to be fact that isn't. We don't claim our interviewees' words to be fact. It's their memory. It's their recollection. It's their truth, and it's their opinion. And everybody's entitled to one. That does not mean we necessarily share any of these opinions. And listeners, please remember, everyone, including the suspects, is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Please bear that in mind as we welcome you to Season 2, Episode 2, The Search for Luke Joly-Durocher.
Just a heads up that there is some foul language and adult content in here. Listener discretion is advised.
We are starting this episode with a few corrections that we would like to address before we go any further. We have reported a few facts incorrectly in the first episode and have since learned the correct facts from the source. This is so important in order to understand the timeline. Another prime example that stories can change as they are passed along. We just learned a great lesson. That being, unless the information comes from the actual source, there may be slight variances that are completely unintentional. We are working very hard to get accurate information to our listeners. We would like to correct the statement that was made regarding the day that Luke's mother, Mick, went to the North Bay apartment to look for Luke. We stated that she went on the Sunday and was let in by people that remained at the apartment, when in fact she left Monday night for North Bay. She picked up one of the boys from Chippewa that Luke had been with at the apartment on the Friday night to go with her and let her in. We will call him Tim to protect his identity. Tim was the young man who had just moved in that week and who also had another residence in Chippewa. It is our understanding that he only went to North Bay on the weekends and had actually remained at the apartment Saturday and returned to Chippewa on the Sunday. What we also know is that there was no one at the apartment on the Monday night. Tim unlocked the door and let Luke's mother, Mick, into the apartment to look for any signs of Luke. The girl and her boyfriend that also resided there had left for a pre-planned road trip to Florida on the Saturday, the day following Luke's disappearance. We will call them Kathy and Ken, to also protect their identities.
As with any ongoing social media project, and especially with this type of podcast, information is going to filter in as people become engaged. It is important to keep listening, as we will most likely be filling in more blanks as the episodes roll out. Luke's mother, Mick, had decided that she would like to speak about her experience in the days and years following her son's disappearance. We were so very blessed and beyond grateful to speak with her.
And then when Luke disappeared, it's like, oh my God, it's nothing. Like, So then I said, oh my God. I said, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go. So I end up leaving work that night, Monday night. And I brought oh my God. Then I said, I gotta leave. I gotta leave work. So Monday night, which was the 7th, I went to North Bay. I picked up
Tim.
Said while I was in the car, he said, oh, I better bring a charger because Luke's phone must be dead. So I said, oh, okay. So then when I went there, we went to the apartment and then went down the stairs. And I was terrified because, like I was telling Vision just before I got there, that I could see brick house, red, and the top was like ugly yellow beige. And then there was like no curtains. There was like blankets. And I could see my son with his two hands like this, up, no shirt on. Mom, help me. Mom, help me. So then that was the vision that I had. And when I went down the stairs, I was terrified. I just went down the stairs. I didn't go in the kitchen. I could see though a bit, but I couldn't see because it was kind of dark. And then I went down the stairs into
Tim's
room. And Luke's phone was there, dead, on top of I think it was like on top of a speaker. And then I found that weird. Where was that there? So, and then I said, give me everything of Luke's there. And I was just shaking. So give me Luke's coat, his hoodie, and then I think it was like a shirt. I'm not sure. So that was it. That's all I got. So, and then Luke's coat, there was a lighter in one pocket and a lighter in another pocket. And then I heard that
Kathy and Ken
had left the next day, which would be Saturday of when Luke went missing. She really liked Luke too there.
So Tim, let me get this straight. So Tim was not living in North Bay during the week, correct?
That's what I understand, because he was just moved in there that weekend.
So he worked in Kippawa to Miskaming and then wanted to spend his weekends in North Bay. So then got an apartment there.
And that's understandable.
Yeah.
He, there's probably nothing going on in Kippawa. So he's like, oh, maybe I'll go to North Bay and
the big city.
Yeah, the big city.
Big city in North Bay. And then
Party
Kathy
on the weekends and have a place to crash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Kathy and Ken, the young couple that resided there, they had already pre-planned this road trip. They were driving to Florida the very next day. So Saturday, hungover, whether or not, right? They were going.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing we learned was that Kathy actually cut her trip short and came home on a plane without Ken. We believe it was probably on the Wednesday, whether or not she went straight to her parents' house to stay.
Somebody would have had to pick her up at the airport, right?
Right.
So doubtful, fly out, they drove.
Doubtful she went back to the apartment. And the reason she came back is that allegedly there had been a violent altercation between herself and Ken. So she didn't want to finish out the trip. So
good on her to not stay in a situation that you are feeling uncomfortable in, especially if someone's violent. But
well, and they also had another buddy with them, so it wasn't like it was a romantic getaway or anything. It's
often kids will go away together, guys and girls. So, but I just found it interesting that that had happened between them while she was away, and violent enough or upsetting enough, I guess we should say, allegedly, for her to come home and make arrangements to come home. And the sleeping arrangements that night in the apartment, because people could be wondering, I was wondering. So we found out that on the Friday night, it was confirmed that Kathy and Ken actually stayed in their own room. Tim and the girl from Toronto that he was apparently dating, we'll just call her Hillary to protect her identity, they were to sleep in Tim's room. And then there was Hillary's cousin, Bree, who she brought along with her. We've also renamed her. Bob, Luke's childhood friend, also renamed. And Luke were to take the floor or the couch or wherever they were going to lay their heads, right? If you're at an apartment for a weekend, it's not really too much of a concern where you're going to sleep when you're 20 years old. It's like you're just going to crash. So.
Yeah. And, we have sons at that age. And, if they can sleep on the floor or wherever, they can grab a blanket, not even a blanket, a jacket.
Yeah, jacket, sleep on a chair.
Well, they're up till probably 5 a.m. So they're probably only going to get a couple hours sleep.
Right.
And then, so there's a cell phone found in Tim's bedroom on the Monday. And he had brought a charger with him, thinking that it needed to be charged. He must have saw it on the weekend and knew that it was dead to bring a charger and have it charging.
I guess he made the comment to Tim and Nick that Luke's cell phone will likely be dead, so I'll bring my charger. I mean, he could have brought his charger to charge his own phone too, which I believe he did. But yeah, that's kind of interesting to me, because how would you assume that it's going to be there?
And that's what I was saying. Like, why wouldn't you? And I know myself, if Tim lived in Kippawa during the week and in North Bay on the weekends, and Luke lived in Kippawa, and you were going back to Kippawa, why wouldn't you bring the cell phone with you and give it to Luke? Because how was Luke supposed to get it all that week when there was no one at the apartment? So I question that. Like, why wouldn't you say, hey, buddy, you left it at my place. Here's your cell phone and your jacket.
I mean, we've talked about it and said maybe it was just overlooked. The apartment apparently was such a mess, but from what Luke's mother has shared, it was a quick sweep of the apartment, and it didn't take long for him to enter his room and come out with a phone. So it just kind of makes you wonder, did they not think at the time that it was a big deal that his phone was there and he wasn't, and they weren't too worried about it? And now they're feeling bad, like, holy crap, something has happened to our friend. So, You know what I mean?
And
we're not pointing fingers.
Yeah, we're not pointing fingers. I'm asking the question because I think our listeners are asking the same question.
Mm-hmm. We're
talking about 20-year-old kids. They don't think of anything but themselves at the time. So maybe he didn't think it was a big deal. So I'm just thinking out loud and sharing my thoughts.
If we go back to what his best friend Bob had said, he wished that he had taken it more seriously within the first couple of days, and because he didn't. And I don't think any of them did. I think they just thought he'd taken off somewhere and they're going to see him again. And yeah, I don't know whether they did know the phone was there or not, and just feel stupid for not saying anything at first. Who knows?
We know for a fact that Luke was officially reported missing by his mother on the night of Monday, March the 7th. Tim did a sweep of the apartment while she waited by the door. The items that he retrieved at the apartment, which she brought to the police, were his jacket, cell phone, and a hoodie. She and Tim drove to the police station in North Bay with these items. The police only kept his jacket and hoodie. They advised his mother that she could keep the phone. Apparently, there was nothing of concern on the phone, and they felt if he tried to contact her or anyone tried to contact Luke, then she could respond. Police later retrieved the phone, and we assume they were able to recover any and all messages present or deleted. Mick has shared with us all the messages she found on Luke's phone, and we are following up. Thursday, March the 10th, Luke's mom, Mick, and sister Priscilla returned to the apartment with a key given to them by the same young man that let Mick in on Monday. That would be Tim. A police officer met them at the residence and entered the apartment with them.
Thursday, that's when we managed to call a cop, and I said, I want to go to the apartment. I want to go check that apartment. So I ended up getting the key from
Tim.
So me and Priscilla went to North Bay with the key. We get into the driveway, and the cop just walked by us there. The cop that was supposed to go with us, So we parked the car there, and you could say what you seen, Priscilla. You remember those people there? Well, just when we were just going to go there, or maybe that was.
I think it was, the guys who lived in the apartment up above, they were there, and some guy, it looked like they were cleaning up, cleaning in their living room, because you could see the curtains were open, and they were like moving stuff around. And then when we pulled in and we were walking, they noticed us and they came and talked to us. And, they're like, we told them we're looking for Luke, and we showed him what he looked like. And one of the guys said, oh yeah, I've seen him around in our circle, like I guess like their circle of friends. So I'm assuming that they must have kind of knew who he was. And then they said, oh, I said, well, did you see him? Like, did you, like we're asking questions, like, do you know, like, did he say or mention anything? Did you talk to him? And they're like, oh no. And then one guy who lives across the street, he had indicated that, because I don't know why, but all these guys were there, and he had told me, he says, oh, maybe you want to check out this crack. He didn't say crack house, but the address that he gave us was a crack house. Kind of like I felt like they were telling us that to get us out of there, kind of thing. So we're like, okay, well, keep that in mind, and we actually did go and check it out afterwards. We met everybody that day that lives in that house. Yeah, we went inside
the apartment, back in there again. I've noticed as I'm going down the stairs, the door that I said it was closed. I know it was
Kathy and Ken's
door. Well, it was open. I remember that. Oh, I said the door's open. So I said somebody had to come here. Everything was a disaster again, full of beer. Nothing's been picked up. So I go to it's all open there. Living room, dining room, kitchen. And there was one bedroom. That's what I could, after I went in there, that's what I could see. So then I'm looking at the coffee table. Well, there was Luke's Ray-Ban glasses on the coffee table, a beer bottle open, Coors Light, not even a drink out of it. He had like a necklace there, like it was like a flower. It's green.
It's a keychain holder. So it has like the lanyard, and then it had like his little like a keychain holder attached to it. It was strange because it was nicely placed on the, like, it wasn't like I grabbed my keys and I put them all in a little ball and I just tossed them. Well, this was like all like nicely placed, and then there was like the glasses and the open beer bottle. Like it looked staged, whether it was or not.
That was on a Thursday. And then the cop is inside with us too there, like he had went in. I think he went in first. He didn't even wait on us. He just, while we were talking with all these people there outside there, he went in there. So anyway, I said, my son doesn't even drink Coors Light. My son drinks imported beer, and we could see some beer when we went down, like we could see in the kitchen there. Was imported beer. I'm not sure if it was his beer, but probably. Yeah. But the beer bottle was not, it was just open and it was just right there. Nothing else on the coffee table. Everything was nice and clean. And then I told the cop, I said, well, aren't you going to take any fingerprints? Didn't want to take fingerprints. Didn't want to check nothing. He just looked around. And I noticed also there was a window. It was open about this much. It's always open up here. Always, always open. And then he didn't want to do nothing. I said, well, we're going to check the phone. So I said, there's a phone there. There was a phone. But I charged the phone from when I got home, from Monday night. Like, it's bring the phone back home. So Monday to Thursday, there's like nobody texting, nobody calling on Luke's phone. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. That's another thing. Nothing. It was like...
The basement was like split in two, or it maybe like 3/4 of it. And that's where the other apartment was. And then the second floor was that guy with the picture window. And then in the back is the owner. And then all the way at the top, was one as well. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes.
Yeah, he was really... Yeah, I remember that because when I went down there, that like the landlord there, like his door, this door was open. I could see his wife at the kitchen table, and I asked him, would you know how many people was here? Did you notice a lot of shoes here? Oh my God, he ever got pissed off.
After we talked to him, I think we went back to the police station.
Well, we went and check out that place there that those guys sent you because they didn't want us there, and it looked like they were moving like I thought they were the coroners. They went there like to march there, all dressed up in white there, and they checked that whole place
And it was actually in the Nugget. There was an article where they had they had the forensic van there, took swabs and stuff like that, and I guess they didn't find anything.
2 months after, I said, when I asked you when I went there on a Monday night when picked up Luke, you gave me his jackets and his cell. I said, and you told me you gave me everything. How come you didn't give me his Ray-Ban glasses that was on the living room table, Ray-Ban glasses and his keychain, and there was a beer bottle open there. And he said to me, I swear, Mick, that was not, that's what he said. 2 months after. He says, Mick, I swear that was not there. I gave you everything that was there. Are you sure?
Tim.
Are you sure? I'm mad because I should have went in there. I should have went and checked everywhere, but I was so afraid, shaking there, like I couldn't even think with my head. There's like, I can't explain it. I should have went in the house, but I noticed little things like, I said, well, was there anybody there in the weekday? I said, oh, that's what I told him. He says, no, nobody was there, Mick. Well, somebody had to go there because I remember too, that said the door was closed Monday night, and Thursday the door was.
And actually the door, like to go into their apartment.
Right.
So there's like an outside door. So like the weather door, and then there's like a landing. There's like 3 stairs to go downstairs, and then maybe 5 to go upstairs to the old man's house there. When you went downstairs, well, the door itself, like to go in their apartment, you could see through it. It looked like it had been damaged, a lot of times.
What
an intuition.
Yeah. Would you have an intuition? Yeah. More so about what could have happened. You talked to the kids, you saw the place, like you get a feeling sometimes that this isn't right. Like you said, that coffee table looked set up. That didn't look, to me, I would notice like, hey, the whole crap, why is this so nicely laid out?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That you were catching, like the window and the door, like those are good observations, right? Those could mean something.
Yeah.
There was also, the kitchen and the living room. So there was like the kitchen, say when you go in the kitchen area, so like the fridge, stove, and the counter, it was all on the left side. And then as you go in right side, first there was a bathroom and in that spare room. Right on the other side of that was the dining room. And that's where, everything was super messy. There was like cigarette butts on the table. There was, broken glass. It was messy. There was cans, like beer, all kinds of stuff. And then there was like a half a wall. And on the other side of that wall was all on the right side. There was a computer desk there. And the printer was hanging off of the computer desk, like just hanging there by the power cables. And there was, those they're like little hearts. They're about this small, little candies. Yeah. And they say like little love notes. Yeah. Bite me and stuff. Well, that was scattered everywhere. It was like it kind of looked like there was something that happened where like there was a commotion and things were knocked over. And then you got this clean coffee table. Weird.
That Monday night when I went there and I said, haven't you noticed that Luke was missing all that time? He says, oh, Mick, I never even, he said he made it look like, I didn't realize it because Luke's coat was where the dining room table on the side of the wall. He says, I never paid attention that it was there all that time. Yeah, Monday night, I went in Tim's room to look. Like, I didn't really want to go. Then he comes up. I'm in Tim's room, and he says, here's Luke's jacket. And then he comes back again. He says, oh, here's is sweaty, is a hoodie. And Luke's hoodie was, I could smell it there. It was like damp, like it was damp there, like Luke was wearing it. Yeah, Luke has been wearing that for a while, and he was sweating. And the other thing too is that my son, he would walk there without a coat. Somewhere, if it's minus 30, he would. My son would have migraines. If it's, he would sweat. And he says, I got to go outside for I got to go outside 10 minutes. Like when he was living with me there, I got to go outside. He would be hot there and he'd go outside there. If he could throw himself in the snow, he would. And he walks very fast. He's very fast. He could go from Sherbrooke to Voyageur there and run there like that.
Probably takes somebody like 20 minutes to walk.
Luke, I remember like before Luke disappeared, Priscilla, it's not very long ago, we went to
just like the week before, I think.
Callie's Nails. We were there. Me, Priscilla, I don't think Sarah was there. Luke, this girl, she was there too, and then she ended up, that's where we met.
And my brother ended up talking with her, and he was somebody who would like talk to somebody and become their friend.
She was like,
yeah, they were into music, and I think he had picked up a disc or like a record from there was a music store in the mall. I think he had noticed, and then anyways they started talking about music and what's not. And she lived up by the Voyageur. Like, I don't know if they had talked about, what they were doing on the weekend, or I know the police did talk to her, and she said she didn't know. And he loved music, so if there was a show there or anything that was live, he definitely would have been his thing to go to, like a live band. I don't even remember if there was anything live that night, but that he would have.
So this time they discovered his Ray-Ban prescription eyeglasses, his keys on a lanyard, neatly arranged on a coffee table in the living room beside an open and full bottle of Coors Light. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't get how these items were overlooked on Monday by Tim. How would you not see those things? It's a small apartment. You're right there. You're passing by it. How do you not see these items on that coffee table? And there was nothing else on the coffee table.
Yeah, from all accounts, they would have stood out because, like you say, the coffee table seemed to be clear of anything else except for those. Very obvious.
Right. And she stayed at the doorway on the Monday night. So, just inside the apartment. She said she was nervous and afraid of what she might see. So she didn't, you're in there with somebody whose apartment it belongs to. You're not just going to go rampaging through. So she stayed kind of by the door. So she didn't have a view of that. But I mean, he did a sweep. He came back and here are all the things that belong to Luke. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
I guess, giving him the benefit of the doubt, he just overlooked it. Mm-hmm. Who knows, right?
It's not a big deal to him.
The most personal belonging anybody can have at the time would be a cell phone.
Especially for that age. That age, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So on the Monday following Luke's disappearance, when his mom, Mick, visited the apartment, as we said, she didn't walk through to get a good visual, but she did notice that Kathy and Ken's bedroom door was closed. However, on Thursday, when she returned, she made a mental note that this door was now open. She did not enter the kitchen on the Monday, but on Thursday, when she returned, upon observing the kitchen area, it was a complete mess. There were broken bottles, glasses, things tipped over. There was like stuff strewn across the floor, right? Isn't that what Priscilla told us?
Yeah, and she also mentioned, I think it was a printer that was just kind of hanging by the printer cord, like the power cord.
Yeah. Wasn't it candy? All like
little candy hearts, like those little candy hearts that you get with the sayings on them, just kind of like scattered all over the place.
Apparently, the living room was also quite askew and messy, but the coffee table in the living room was neat and tidy, and like it was all cleaned up with only those 3 items on it: Luke's glasses, the lanyard with keys on it, and a full bottle of Coors Light that was opened and looked like maybe he could have had a sip out of it. It was full. So like, what's up with that? Did somebody try to clean up the room and they just left the kitchen in complete chaos? Were they cleaning something up?
Or were they making a statement?
Yeah.
Here is his stuff. Because it was just his stuff. There's nobody else's stuff on that table but Luke's.
Well, that's a good point, Candy. So maybe they were expecting that he may show up and it's like, well, dude, here's your stuff right here. Yeah. I'll put it out in plain view. But why make that attempt and not clean up the rest of the chaos? It's just weird.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And on a side note, if you girls and listeners didn't hear that, Luke didn't drink Coors Light. So why was there a bottle of Coors Light there? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He preferred imported beer. And from the sounds of it, there was imported beer there. So if somebody was trying to make it look like Luke was leaving his stuff there and had started a beer, not finished it, they didn't know Luke that well. And it certainly points to the fact that it wasn't Luke sitting there having a beer, leaving his stuff on the table.
Right.
So I'm understanding that on the Monday when Mick was there with Tim, she saw the couple's door closed. On Thursday, when she went with Priscilla, that she noticed the door was open. You got to think, we know that Tim said that he left on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's there because the couple is gone. How does that happen?
Well, the couple left on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Tim left on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
When they went on Monday, the door was closed.
Right.
Yes.
But
so, and if Tim was in Kippawa, how would that door open?
Well, the only way it could is if Kathy, when she returned early from her trip in Florida, actually visited the apartment. It is a possibility, so we have to point it out. But from all accounts that we know at this point, she did not return to the apartment.
Luke's mother noticed that there was a window open, a small crack in the window. So that could explain maybe someone was going into that place. Like that, it could happen.
She described the windows too as those old style slider ones that they're like the double pane. They have the tiny little knobs on them that usually end up falling off, and you can literally just put pressure on them, push and slide.
Or pull them out.
And drop somebody into a basement apartment, easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
So could someone have made their way into this apartment because and set that up or opened the door or did something like that?
Well, the door was really unsecure. They both, Priscilla and Mick, mentioned how odd the door was, that they said you could almost see through it. It was just the main door to come into the basement entrance was a little better, but the one to go to the actual kids' apartment, they said you could like blow on it and it would open. It was just not, it was a joke, right? Easy ways to get in there. And I mean, I don't know, were they in the habit of leaving the door unlocked a lot? Because the door was unlocked the night that they all went out.
Yeah, but if he's gone for a week, you think he would lock the door.
He would have locked it.
That's a long time to be. But who knows? Maybe he had a friend going over. Maybe said, "Hey, just stay at my house." I'm assuming.
He could have forgotten to lock the door. Who knows? We weren't there. We don't claim to know. So,
I just wanted to point it out that Mick knows on Monday that the door is shut. She goes back Thursday. No one's supposed to be in that apartment, and the door's open.
Lots of questions.
So it's important to remind you, the listeners, that even though you may be hearing some facts for the first time that may cause you to suspect certain individuals, police have done their due diligence and either eliminated suspects or redirected their focus elsewhere. Otherwise, arrests would have been made at this point. The old adage, suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, remains true. We've always reminded ourselves and our listeners to never put blinders on, so don't get so tightly drawn in one direction that no other plausible theories remain. This perspective can be damaging and cause one to miss the indistinct clues that could lead to the answers. However, we believe in sharing all the information with our listeners only to provide you with a clearer perspective.
So before we go on a little break here, I just want to let the listeners know that sometimes you might hear a couple sounds like Well, probably my sister putting down her wine glass, or maybe Candy's son coming into the room.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to relax when we're doing this podcast and make it as natural for you folks as possible. So you might hear a little bit of background noise. Just saying.
Yeah, enjoying a nice glass of wine on a Friday night.
Right.
Yeah.
Luke's case is still very active, even as we're approaching the 10-year anniversary of his disappearance. The public, along with ourselves, often question what the police have learned, or better yet, who have they eliminated as suspects, so we can focus our attention in the right areas. Of course, this is not information they're able to share, as some of it would be considered holdback evidence and would most definitely hinder the investigation if released to the public. We were fortunate enough, however, to speak with Detective Constable Dave Wilson of the North Bay Police Services, who is the lead detective assigned to Luke's case, and he shared with us what he could.
I was working within the criminal investigation section when the call came in 2011. So I've been involved in the investigation from the beginning. At the time, Staff Sergeant Brewer, who was a detective constable, was assigned to the investigation, but I took over as the lead investigator in 2013.
Okay. And how active is Luke's case currently, and do you still receive tips on a regular basis?
Yes, the case remains highly active. The assumption out there is that the case has gone cold due to the amount of time that's passed, which is simply not true. We have literally received hundreds of tips from the public and continue to receive tips on a weekly basis. What I can tell you is every tip is logged into our electronic system, and then it's filed and signed for follow. The public's been instrumental, and they're helping try to solve this case. Generally speaking, the public has good intentions and wants to provide answers for the Joly family. Although the case remains unsolved, the information received from the public has assisted in many ways. The information may help in clarifying misinformation we may have received in the past, or it'll provide further insight into previously received information. Currently, we're following up information that's actually been received within the last couple of weeks.
How many suspects would you guesstimate that you've questioned?
Although I can't get into specifics, what I can tell you is that the investigation has led us to identify a number of persons of interest and or suspects. Many have been cleared from suspicion through a variety of investigative techniques or strategies, but we remain active in following up all information received from the public relating to Luke's disappearance.
Could you elaborate on how difficult a case like this is to investigate, considering we're approaching 10 years since Luke has been reported missing?
A case like this has many investigative challenges, considering a great deal of misinformation was received from a select few individuals in the early stages of the investigation. Some information was intentionally misleading, and some of it was simply based on rumors. As the years went on, unfortunately, the misinformation has continued to resurface and has basically taken on new forms, meaning that additional details or, say, mixtures of misinformation now exist. So because of this, it would often take many investigative hours in order to determine the source of the information. A lot of the information may have been previous information that's been, say, proven false or inactive. So it can be frustrating, being that investigators, you can find yourself quickly spinning your tires. But again, that's a common issue in all investigations. That's a small piece of information that continues to grow and kind of spirals out of control. But it's a matter of assessing the information properly and just focusing your resources in the proper direction. It can be frustrating at times and difficult, but that's what our job, and we'll continue to push forward.
Thank you so much. Is there a message that you would like to send to our listeners?
I would simply ask that people continue to contact us with information, regardless of whether or not you feel the information is important. Let us assess that part. All it's going to take is that one vital piece of information to send us down the right path. Thank you. We appreciate your team sharing Luke's case with your listeners.
So Detective Wilson feels like the public plays a crucial role in assisting in the investigation, which is very, very important because it's you, the listeners, and the public that can really help the police in finding Luke. Detective Wilson spoke with us about how important tips are, and we want to share with you how, even if you think it's a small piece of information, it can be really, really important. We recently received something that, I think the person was thinking it wasn't as important. So we directed him to the police, Detective Wilson, and it was a crucial part in this investigation. So we just want to...
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, we just want to say, even if you think it's nothing, it can be big. So if you know something, share it.
So he also commented that, unfortunately, misinformation is resurfacing again after all these years. So going back to 2013, when the two women were charged, a lot of the information that the police were focusing on for 5 months got out there. It goes full circle, and sometimes it comes back again, and different variations of both of those stories are resurfacing. Things get changed. So it's really terrible, actually. But I mean, I think people maybe aren't intentionally spreading a rumor. They might think that it's actually, real information that needs to get to the police. And like he said, they'll take every tip, they'll follow up on everything. So whether they've heard it or not, it just means more work for them. But don't stop sharing your information. Don't stop sharing your tips. It's so important.
Every piece of information, whether you believe it's crucial or not, should be shared with authorities. We can assure you that Detective Wilson would make you feel comfortable. Some people may have been deterred from sharing information after the two women were charged for knowingly providing false information, but that is a completely different situation. After all, someone's son, brother, nephew, grandson, and friend is missing. Do the right thing to help the Joly-Durocher family.
I can only imagine, as we all can, just being a parent of a missing child. It physically makes my stomach weak. I get shaky. My heart aches. I think I would want to take matters into my own hands. I try and picture myself, and we've all talked about it. And I know I'd definitely be searching anywhere I could. I wouldn't stop. That's exactly what Rob Joly did. The week after Luke disappeared, he hired an individual with a tracking dog to detect Luke's scent in and around that Sherbrooke Street apartment and around that area. He did this before he actually knew that Luke was last positively confirmed to be seen way up at the other end of town. So what they did was they took some of his laundry, they let the dog sniff it for Luke's scent, and then they followed as the dog led them right down to Main Street. We'll have to provide a map, but Main Street, and then over to Chippewa Creek via 3rd Avenue to Memorial Drive. And then there's a big marsh area called the Laurier Marsh. So we will provide a map on our Facebook page that will clearly mark this area. And so the dog, I apparently took them all over these areas, and he sat at a point at Chippewa Creek and barked. So that's what dogs do. They usually bark, 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 and then they sit. It did appear that he picked up the scent. The fact that the handler's dog headed to the Main Street, which is where Cecil's Eatery and Beer Society is located, did give Rob confidence that, okay, they got something right. So was he also correct in picking up Luke's scent near Chippewa Creek? We don't know, because they actually never found any other signs of Luke in that area, which is completely unfortunate. I couldn't imagine thinking, oh my God, we found something, but it was just sort of a dead end. So
during every episode, we feature a missing person case from our friends at Please Bring Me Home. The Please Bring Me Home team is made up of various people who possess a wide range of skills and who are committed to raising awareness and keeping missing persons cases in the public eye. Their main objective is to bring closure to the family and friends of missing loved ones across Canada.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Myers, and I am the Eastern Canada team leader for Please Bring Me Home. I would like to shed some light on this case concerning Dylan Eller. Prior to his disappearance on May 6, 2020, he was a 3-year-old full of energy. He was last seen at his grandmother's house on Elizabeth Street in Truro, Nova Scotia. His grandmother turned her back for a second and Dylan vanished. Reportedly, Eller's boots were found by a search crew in a nearby brook the same night he went missing. Police presume that Eller fell in the nearby brook and drowned, but without clear evidence of this, leaves loved ones without closure. Could it be someone who kidnapped him and took him to the river? Could he have wandered off on his own to the river? How come the search crews haven't found any of Dylan's other clothing besides his boots? There are numerous unanswered questions to this case, all of which Dylan's parents never give up trying to answer. The parents hold frequent searches for their son, one of which involves a drone, but sadly haven't been able to find any new clues. Sadly, on top of all the hardships his parents have had to endure since May 2020, they have also been dealing with cruel, untrustworthy people who try to scam them by giving false random tips and spreading rumors. Despite many cruel messages spread across social media, there are numerous supportive people that continue to put in the effort to help find Dylan and give light to an undoubtedly trying time for his family. Please Bring Me Home and its members will try our hardest to find the answers to this little boy's mysterious disappearance.
If you have any information about the disappearance of little Dylan Eller, please reach out to pleasebringmehome.com. If you have any information about the disappearance of Luke Joly-Durocher, please contact the North Bay Police Service at 705-497-5555. You can also submit a tip to Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. That's 1-800-222-TIPS or online at nearnorthcrimestoppers.com.
If neither of those options suit you and you have something you would like to or need to share about Luke's story, please consider us as an option. We can be contacted at sheddinglightpodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text us at 437-374-3030, or you can visit us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and message us on any of these platforms. If you're afraid to share what you know, you can remain anonymous. Our podcast can be found at sheddinglight.buzzsprout.com, or you can find us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Deezer, Stitcher. The list goes on. Please subscribe to Shedding Light. You can rate us on your Apple Podcasts, and please consider taking a moment to write a review. It would be much appreciated.
From what we have learned from all sources, I don't believe there was a sense of urgency from the minute he was reported missing, as some assumed he had maybe taken off with a girl or just decided to head on an adventure somewhere because he was a bit of a free spirit. It has been reported that a canine unit, volunteers, and police began an active search in the days that followed his disappearance, with police canvassing the neighborhood door to door. Although a search of the Sherbrooke Street residence, along with the other apartments in the same building, didn't take place until 6 weeks later, about mid-April. This consisted of a thorough 48-hour investigation with a full forensics team. We have seen numerous comments implying that if foul play occurred at the residence, that the suspects would have had ample time to clean up any evidence. But with forensic technology, these days, it seems that it would almost be impossible for someone not to leave behind a trace of evidence. We have spoken with two sources who either lived on Sherbrooke Street at the time or had relatives who once lived there. Both sources said police knocked on their door a few days after Luke's disappearance, asking whether they saw or heard anything unusual that night. One source did, in fact, hear what sounded like an altercation in front of the 683 Sherbrooke address late that night. They recalled it being after midnight for sure, because it had awakened them, but they did not look outside their window to observe what was taking place, because I think there's always a lot of activity in that area. The other source recalls the sounds of a car shortly after midnight with its motor running and very loud music on its stereo. This went on for a few minutes and then they didn't hear it anymore. Again, they did not look outside to observe any more details. You would think after the fact, goodness, why didn't I just look out my window?
Mm-hmm.
But
really,
you don't know.
Cozy in your bed at night and it's a cold, snowy winter night and you're sleeping and it's a street that you probably hear some stuff happening on. You probably think this shit happens all the time. I'm not getting out of bed.
If it persisted, then you might react, right? But
But if it stopped like it did,
case it persisted. So
no.
Yeah. So many people immediately associate the vacant parcel of land at the end of Sherbrooke Street across from 683 as a place of interest. It is a vacant lot formerly owned by the railway. It's paved and it's surrounded by trees and bush on all sides and is very secluded. Taxis are known to sit here and wait for fares. This area has been searched more than once for any sign relating to Luke. And we do have pictures up on our website to kind of illustrate the visuals, to illustrate the house, the end of the street. So it's actually not exactly across the street. It's
the side of the house. So the house sits on a corner.
Yeah.
So the front of the house faces obviously Sherbrooke Street. And then this is Sherbrooke Street kind of goes to a dead end. There's this big parking
it's kitty
lot.
corner.
It kind of it continues on the other side of this. It's
Yeah. The OPP joined the investigation in 2016 and approved a reward of $50,000 for information leading to the whereabouts of Luke. They were able to offer assistance and resources that would not have been possible by the municipal police. Curtis Fredericks, detective inspector and major case manager, OPP Criminal Investigation Unit, said, quote, unquote, as time passes, people often realize that they hold a key piece of information that they may not have realized was important. Even though they may not have been directly involved or witness to a crime, placing a person's whereabouts on a timeline is crucial. And we can't reiterate that enough.
It took until 2019 to positively confirm that Luke's timeline was extended up to the Voyager. So that is crucial. That's somebody that they had to, take all that time to investigate to confirm that this is legit, this happened, and this is where we can place him now. So it's so important. And the investigation into Luke's disappearance had taken some unfortunate turns as we previously mentioned. We touched on them in 2013. 2 women were charged with obstruction of justice for providing false information, as well as public mischief for falsely implicating others in Luke's apparent murder. So the first woman's motive was simply a desperate need for attention. She claimed that Luke was, I hate even saying this, but she claimed that Luke was beaten to death and his body dumped near his hometown of Temiskaming. 3 police services in 2 provinces, so Ontario and Quebec, were brought to the search to Temiskaming, Quebec, following this woman's leads. Unfortunately, this tied up and exhausted all of their resources for months and months, which included reaching a site that required a dive team in a lagoon. So we're talking major resources, major time, major money, following on all these tips and interviews and, probably polygraphing people, like just so much energy when you're totally focusing in the wrong direction. And this woman clearly could not have understood the impact this had on Luke's family. We think she got enough attention for all the wrong reasons, and we do not wish to reward her again by mentioning her name, so we're not going to. Hopefully her 2-year sentence coupled with therapy made her realize just what she put the Joly-Durocher family through for 5 months. It's disgusting. There may have been mental illness involved there, and I do believe that Rob even had a heart and said that he even felt sorry for her. But I mean, imagine going through that.
I couldn't. I'd be so pissed because this is important.
And just even hear those details, like they were just fabricated details, like about your child and envisioning that happening to them. And it's not true. There was another woman, we don't know as much about this case, but another woman that claimed her boyfriend was responsible. Apparently she had a grudge against him because he ended their relationship. So obviously a pretty toxic relationship, must have been a pretty bad grudge, because she decided that she was going to, again, intentionally mislead the police, this ongoing investigation. She's going to falsely accuse her boyfriend of a serious criminal offense, and off they went again in another direction and quickly realized that she was not telling the truth, and she was charged as well. So
this pisses me off. This pisses me off because, come on, you can be mad at your boyfriend. He's moved on. You got to get over it. Don't do this shit.
And you wonder why he moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Geez.
It drives me crazy.
But this is what we're taught. This is what we talked about earlier. This is completely different. You're knowingly providing false information to mislead a case. This is somebody looking for their son and their brother and their friend and their grandson. Like, why? So, but anybody out there that possibly saw Luke or knows Luke or maybe saw him at one of the bars, or these are the things that it's okay to come forward with. If you don't even think it means anything, big whip-de-doo. I saw him standing in line at the bar. Then come forward, contact the police and tell them that could extend the timeline. We don't know exactly what time he left. So these things are all important. These people, I don't even think that we need to waste our breath on them anymore. But this is the kind of thing that happened.
Not to mention the people that they falsely accused. Like, imagine
that's what I was going to say.
Live with that over your head forever, and people still looking at you with those sideways glances. Because
it's resurfacing.
Yeah,
those rumors. Now, what's happened is those stories have become rumor, and they're resurfacing in different variations over the years, and they're coming back again. So.
And that poor guy, he's just trying to move on. And now this, I hate to say it, witch, I'm not going to use the B word, did this to him just to hurt him. Like, you have to be really, really mean. And that's what it is. You're mean because you want to hurt him, and then you want to hurt Luke's family.
Well, I don't even think they cared if they hurt Luke's family. They just have absolutely no regard for other people's feelings. You're very narrow-minded. So I think we spent enough time talking about them.
Yes. On June 14th, 2016, police were again misled, this time to a residence on Boucher Street in Témiscamingue, Quebec. This search was the result of an inaccurate information and was led by the Sûreté de Québec and assisted by the North Bay Police. It was an intense 14-hour search involving a forensics team. Again, we can only assume that this search did not turn up any evidence relating to Luke's disappearance. It is obvious that police were working every tip they had received over the years, many of them steering them in the wrong direction. This waste of their time contributed to the fact that it took them until October 8th, 2019 to positively confirm that Luke's last sighting was in fact at the Voyageur Inn on Delaware Street in North Bay.
We know Luke was seen socializing at the Voy, speaking to someone in the washroom, and he was seen getting a ride with someone from the bar. So who gave him a ride? We're pretty darn sure the police know. At least one of the people he got a ride with. Who was he socializing with there? I mean, if you know anything, if you were there that night, if you have anything at all to add to what the police already know, please come forward if you know anything or saw anything that could be of help.
Of course, there are also rumors that float around, and as horrible as they are, often there may be a tiny grain of truth that has gotten jumbled over time. We have read comments from some who believe he may have had a drug debt. How much drug debt can a 20-year-old have? Really? From all accounts, we can only confirm that he allegedly used marijuana. Well, don't we all? Sorry.
It is legal. Well, now.
Yes. There was an individual who witnessed another party saying they would need guns to get Luke back. Like, what is that about?
What the hell is that all about? Exactly.
Drives me crazy. Sorry, people. There are rumors that a close neighbor was an accomplice to an act of manslaughter.
So these are the things that Luke's family has been having to listen to, have had to endure. And literally, they've been through sheer torture the past 9.5 years. As his sister Priscilla spoke to us, she relayed how it's affected her and her own family personally. She has 2 children. She said, quote, unquote, "There are so many names that have come up over the years, and most of the stories have gruesome endings. It has been numbing. It has become numbing to hear that my brother was accidentally or purposely killed, chopped up and buried, dragged behind a 4-wheeler until he died, or hit until he died."
Catch your breath.
Unquote. Mm-hmm. And she continued to explain to us how it impacted her children. You got to remember this was their uncle. They were just little at the time. And she said they wonder what kind of relationship they missed out on all these years. They could have shared his love of music with them. They could have played video games, school activities. The list goes on. And responding to a question I had asked her about, what's your gut feeling, Priscilla? She said, I don't know how to answer. I don't know what to answer. My hope is that he just went with someone he knew and he never looked back. That is my best scenario, even if it's not realistic, that after all these years, he would have tried to make contact.
And that's what I think anybody would want for anybody missing, that they're happy.
Holding out hope, right?
Yes.
Holding on to every last strand of hope.
Of course, I always get emotional because I think about how when we're researching for a podcast, we're reading, we're writing, when you see the faces of the families and you see what it's done to them and how they have to go on, it tears you up inside. It really does. Like, these people need answers. This is not fair to put anybody through this. These people, these lovely people, beautiful family, they need to know what happened to their beautiful son.
I agree, Susie. And when we got to meet Mick and Priscilla, it was an honor, but I could see it in their face that they're just lost a bit. And you can tell that their hearts are broken and they just want to keep going. But I think they're finding it very difficult, as anybody would.
Well, how long can you go on like that? It drains you of every ounce of energy you have, right? I mean,
how would you sleep? Because every night you would go to bed wanting that person, and then you wake up.
Because you're seeking answers. You just want an answer. That's all you want. And until you have that answer, you have no peace. You have nothing. Yes. So please, you, the public, help us. Help them find the answers. Join us for episode 3. What happened to Luke Joly-Durocher?
Not many times did I deny somebody because I wasn't at the door. But this night I denied somebody. And I'll tell you, to this day, Sue and Angela, every time I see something about the disappearance of Luke Joly or find Luke Joly or anything on that, I think, what if I wasn't a hard ass? And it really, really, really hits me hard. Like, hard.
The folk all around you, not believing it's real. How can this happen?